Championship Sunday at the Rocket Classic was supposed to decide one thing, the next winner. Instead, it began with a stunning decision that turned the entire tournament upside down. Before the final round could even get underway at Detroit Golf Club, the PGA Tour stepped in and dramatically changed how the day would unfold, leaving players scrambling to adjust, fans questioning what had happened, and raising one unbelievable question. What could possibly force officials to disrupt the most important round of the week just hours before a champion was crowned? At first glance, it sounds like a simple schedule adjustment, but the deeper you look, the more complicated the situation becomes. This wasn't just about moving tee times or asking players to start earlier. Every change created a ripple effect, from the way contenders prepared for the biggest round of their week to the experience of thousands of spectators expecting to witness a normal finish. And with the tournament's final champion still waiting to be crowned, the timing couldn't have been more dramatic. Before we break down exactly what happened and why this decision could have a huge impact on who lifts the trophy, I want to hear from you. Which city are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy in-depth PGA Tour coverage that goes beyond the headlines, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the biggest stories in golf. Because once the real reason behind this decision comes to light, you'll understand why so many people were left stunned. The answer comes down to something the PGA Tour simply could not afford to ignore. Long before the first group was scheduled to tee off, weather forecasts pointed to a dangerous combination of heavy rain, thunderstorms, and the possibility of lightning moving directly toward Detroit Golf Club. Waiting until the last minute wasn't an option if officials delayed making a decision, and severe weather arrived while players were already scattered across the course. It would create safety concerns, logistical problems, and even greater disruption for everyone involved. That's why the PGA Tour made the unusual call to completely reorganize the final round before it even started. Instead of the traditional two-player groups beginning from the first tee throughout the morning, players were rearranged into threesomes and sent off from both the first and 10th tees at nearly the same time. The goal was simple: get the entire field around the course much earlier, creating enough extra daylight to finish the tournament, even if storms forced play to stop later in the afternoon. Every player follows a carefully planned routine before a final round, from warm-up times to practice sessions and mental preparation. Suddenly, those routines had to be rewritten overnight. For some contenders, that extra adjustment could become an unexpected advantage. What began as a crowded leaderboard quickly evolved into a battle where a single great round completely reshaped the race for the trophy, leaving almost no room for mistakes on championship day. Davis Riley delivered exactly the kind of performance every player dreams about before a final round. His brilliant 7-under 63 pushed him to 15 under for the tournament, but it was the way he finished that caught everyone's attention. Back-to-back birdies on the demanding 17th and 18th holes didn't just move him into the lead, they gave him the momentum every golfer wants heading into the biggest round of the week. Suddenly, a player who wasn't receiving much attention only 24 hours earlier had become the man everyone was chasing. But Riley wasn't the only storyline unfolding. 24-year-old Michael Brennan continued his remarkable rise with another outstanding round, finishing just one shot behind the leader and earning a place in the final group. At the same time, Rasmus Højgaard produced the round of the tournament, firing a sensational 61 after barely making the cut. He came within inches of recording the first 60 ever seen at Detroit Golf Club, instantly turning himself into one of the most dangerous players on the leaderboard. With proven champions like Ricky Fowler, Cameron Young, Chris Kirk, and several other contenders all within striking distance, the margin between celebration and disappointment had become incredibly small. That meant the PGA Tour's unexpected decision wasn't affecting a runaway leader. It was interrupting one of the tightest and most unpredictable final round battles the Rocket Classic had seen in years. That's where the story becomes far more interesting. The moment the PGA Tour reshuffled the final round, the competition stopped being only about who had played the best golf through 3 days. It also became a test of who could adjust the fastest when the biggest day of the tournament suddenly looked nothing like they had expected. Before we see which players stood to gain the most from this unexpected change, I want to hear from you. Who do you think had the biggest advantage after the PGA Tour changed the final round schedule? Let me know your pick in the comments, and if you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth PGA Tour coverage and the biggest stories from the world of golf. For Davis Riley, the overnight change created a unique challenge. He had earned the lead with confidence, rhythm, and 2 clutch birdies to close Saturday. Golfers often talk about protecting momentum, and any unexpected interruption can make it difficult to recreate the same mindset the following day. Instead of simply waking up and following the routine that put him on top, Riley had to adapt to an entirely different schedule while carrying the pressure of being the player everyone wanted to catch. The opportunity looked very different for those chasing him. Michael Brennan, playing in the biggest round of his young PGA Tour career, suddenly had extra time to settle his nerves and prepare for the pressure of the final group. Rasmus Højgaard also entered the day with enormous confidence after his spectacular 61, knowing he was only a few shots away if the leaders made even a small mistake. Behind them, experienced contenders like Ricky Fowler, Cameron Young, and Chris Kirk understood that a tightly packed leaderboard meant one hot stretch of holes could completely change the championship. That is exactly why this decision carried so much weight. It didn't guarantee an advantage for anyone, but it reset the emotional balance of the tournament. In a contest where only a handful of shots separated so many contenders, even the smallest disruption had the potential to change who handled the pressure best when the fight for the Rocket Classic trophy finally resumed. While the players were trying to adjust behind the scenes, the sudden changes created an entirely different experience for everyone outside the ropes. Fans who had planned their day around a traditional championship Sunday suddenly discovered that the schedule they expected no longer existed. Instead of the familiar flow of tee times throughout the morning, the PGA Tour compressed the entire field into a much shorter window by sending groups from both the first and 10th tees. What was supposed to be a normal final round instantly became a carefully managed race against time. The impact stretched far beyond the leaderboard. Television broadcasters had to adjust their coverage, spectators needed to arrive earlier than planned, and tournament officials worked to keep thousands of people informed as conditions continued to change. Even though the championship had not been suspended after play began, every decision reflected the same reality. The tour was preparing for the possibility that severe weather could interrupt the afternoon at any moment. That uncertainty was enough to change the atmosphere around Detroit Golf Club. Instead of spending the morning talking only about who might lift the trophy, conversations quickly shifted toward the weather radar, possible delays, and whether all 18 holes could be completed before another interruption became necessary. Every passing hour carried another layer of suspense because nobody knew if the revised schedule would prove to be the perfect precaution or if the forecast would still force officials into an even more difficult decision before the day was over. The pressure surrounding this final round wasn't created by the weather alone. Even if conditions had been perfect, the stakes were already unusually high because this wasn't just another stop on the PGA Tour calendar. It marked the final Rocket Classic under its current title sponsorship, giving every player in contention a chance to become the last champion of an event that has produced memorable finishes since arriving in Detroit. That added a completely different layer of motivation. For veterans like Ricky Fowler, the tournament holds special meaning after capturing one of the biggest victories of his recent career here in 2023. A second title at Detroit Golf Club would give him the opportunity to close this chapter in remarkable fashion. For younger contenders such as Davis Riley and Michael Brennan, the reward was even greater. Winning under these circumstances wouldn't simply earn them another PGA Tour trophy, it could become the defining victory that changes the direction of their careers. Beyond the trophy itself, valuable FedEx Cup points were also on the line. With the playoffs approaching, every position on the leaderboard carried enormous significance. A strong finish could secure a player's postseason hopes, while a disappointing Sunday might leave months of hard work in jeopardy. That meant every birdie, every mistake, and every decision became far more important than it would during an ordinary tournament. By this point, it was clear that the PGA Tour had done everything possible to give the Rocket Classic the best chance of finishing on schedule. But despite all the planning, there was still one factor no official, player, or fan could control: the weather itself. The revised tee times and split starts bought valuable time, yet they couldn't guarantee that Mother Nature would cooperate. Even the forecasts added another layer of uncertainty. While PGA Tour meteorologists prepared for the worst-case scenario, some local weather reports suggested the storms might weaken or move through faster than expected. That left everyone asking the same question: had officials acted out of extreme caution, or were they preparing for a situation that would eventually justify every decision they had made? No matter which forecast proved correct, one thing had already changed forever. Championship Sunday was no longer remembered only as the day someone would lift the Rocket Classic trophy. It had become a story about preparation, pressure, and a rare decision that altered the rhythm of an entire tournament before the opening shot of the final round was even struck. Now I want to hear your opinion. Did the PGA Tour make the right decision by changing the final round schedule before conditions became dangerous, or do you think they reacted too early? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe because we'll continue covering every major PGA Tour story and the biggest moments from professional golf as they happen.